Hey everyone, it's Spammer D, and I'm back to look at the second game to come from Team Eco, Shadow of the Colossus. A game that pretty much gives it all away in the title. Compared to its predecessor, it's simply colossal. Every battle, every confrontation, the world itself, and the burden you have to bear just feels huge. But perhaps I'm getting ahead of myself. Our game begins with our hero riding towards a massive castle while carrying what looks to be a body, which it is. Now, just like with Eco, I'm not going to spoil the story, especially not the ending. That's something you gotta see for yourself. But as this is literally everything you learn before you can even do anything, I'll give you the gist of it. Basically, this is the ultimate guy saves girl story. Just like plenty of other stories I'm sure we're all familiar with, except there's a catch-22 here. She's not sleeping. She's dead. Well, that's a bit of a downer. I'd love to see Nintendo try and pull that one off. But all hope is not lost. The point of bringing the maiden here is to revive her, which surprisingly God himself pretty much agrees to do, assuming you can manage to slay 16 Colossi roaming the land. And that's pretty much where our game begins. You shoot off from the temple into the vast open world to slay some giants, with nothing but your trusty steed, bow and arrow, and a magic sword. And any other items you might have unlocked playing through the time trials, which I did not. And once you've stepped out from that dark temple to see the cursed lands where your formidable foes lie, you'll immediately hit on something huge. Well, yeah, obviously, but what I was actually getting at was that Shadow of the Colossus is a gorgeous game. My god, it's hard to believe this was a PS2 game. Well, almost. Okay, let's just get the nitpicking out of the way right here and now. What is wrong with this run cycle? And yeah, Eco's wasn't much better, but this is just hilariously, distractingly bad. Thankfully, the world outside is distractingly gorgeous. I mean, the world outside in the video game, not the actual world outside. That place is... I don't go out there. There's people out there. Though, talk about getting your labels wrong. Do they really expect me to believe that these are cursed lands? Unless you consider way too much bloom a blight. What is it exactly about these sprawling and diverse landscapes that make them so cursed? Oh, right. The giant monsters. How did I forget about that? I don't know. Still kind of weighing in on which one of these is worse. But I gotta say, if nothing else, what an amazing looking curse. Yeah, you don't hear that too often. But truly, the graphical highlight of this game is undeniably the Colossi. These beasts are a sight to behold, and easily some of the greatest looking creatures I've ever seen in a video game. From the way they move, which makes up for this by the way, to just how perfectly they meld in with nature itself. The fur, the moss, whichever it is, they look and feel so organic, almost real. And it's the Colossus that really do steal the show. The entire game revolves around them. Well yeah, duh, but it's more than that. It's about finding them, how they appear, fighting them, and fighting only them. That's right, arguably one of the most interesting and unique features of this game is that the boss battles, i.e. the Colossus fights, are the only battles in the game. Now think about that for a moment. How many other games actually do that? Most games follow somewhat of a standard formula. Acquire some kind of quest or goal, then battle through endless hordes, and then a boss fight, with some type of reward afterwards or story bits or something of that nature. But now ask yourself this, aside from the rewards, aren't the boss fights what we're excited about? Those epic confrontations that really challenge your skill, your fortitude, and put what you've learned so far to the test. Yeah, that's the good stuff. I mean, really, how often do you hear, "Yay, another random battle," or "Hey look, another street punk, can't wait to fight him," or "God damn it, my repel wore off, frickin' Zubats." Wait, no, that last one's actually pretty on point. But I think you get the idea. Shadow of the Colossus skips all the fluff and gets straight to the juicy bits, and it's fantastic. Though to the untrained eye, it might be a tad deceiving. And of course, I say that in the most endearing way possible, because the battles with the Colossi are easily some of the most epic battles I've ever experienced in a game. That is, of course, if you can really call them battles. I mean, yeah, they are for sure, but I'd actually think of them more as giant walking puzzles that, want to kill you. Despite the outward appearance, most of the challenge actually comes from trying to figure out how. How are you going to beat them? How are you going to scale them? And how are you going to get at their weak points? Which is displayed classic arcade style, by the way. A giant glowing spot which you can find by shining the light off of your magic sword onto them. Oh yes, thank you, magic sword. I never would have thought to stab it in the back of the head. Whatever would I do without this invaluable knowledge? Okay. So they're not all that obvious, but that's not really the point. As I said before, it's actually about the process of figuring out how to get to the weak point that's the real challenge. Whether it be getting past some armor or finding some patch of grass or hair, I'm really not sure which it is, in order to climb up. Fortunately, they all share a lot of these common traits that you can exploit. I mean, could you really imagine what it'd be like if they didn't? Oh yeah, he would be screwed. But that's not to say the Colossi aren't as intimidating as well. Hell, just some of their entrances alone can be enough to get you on edge. I mean, just check this one out. I entered this large open area and I knew the beast would appear. I mean, look around, it's practically spelled out. Come on, where are ya? It's gotta be around here somewhere. Seriously, how does something called a Colossus manage to hide? Come on, I'm running out of land here. It's gonna come from below the cliff, isn't it? And it started with its hand first. I knew it. And this is where the battle began, with me running with my tail between my legs. But despite that, this was actually one of my favorite battles in the game, because figuring out how to topple him took some real paying attention to the surroundings and to the Colossus itself. And that really demonstrates how these fights actually are. Let's check it out. As you can plainly see, getting close to this monster is pretty much out of the question. Jerk's got a giant ass club, so obviously I need the high ground. But unfortunately, I can't seem to get up to said high ground, nor can I manage to find anything to climb on. So yeah, I'm pretty much screwed. But it's times like this I look inward and turn to God himself for answers. God damn it. So here I am, with no clue as what to do. But then I notice the ground. Why would it be raised like this? I mean, what practical purpose could that possibly serve? Then I notice that every step the Colossus takes, the ground rises. Two and two together. Haha! Now I've got the high ground. Prepare to be slain. I swear, this game has a habit of putting me in my place every time I start making light of the situation. Most of which I can't tell you about due to spoilers. But still, you can imagine how the rest of this fight went on as I made my way back up. And it was awesome. Really, every fight is. and it's all complemented by its amazing score. The music in this game is outstanding and very fitting, but not in the same way Ico was. Ico's music felt more like a blend of music and nature, something you could almost hear if you walked around nature IRL. Shadow, on the other hand, leans more towards the traditional game music side of things, having the tunes complement the game and particularly its pacing. I think this might help to clarify. Now, as cool as that is, it doesn't really fit, does it? Trust me, if it did, I totally would have used it for the opening montage. But now, let's see how it's actually done. You see? Not only is it epic, it's also fitting for a battle that's just as much problem solving as it is action. An amazing blend that heightens the game all the further. But despite the overall amazing beauty, audio, and gameplay, this game is anything but flawless. And there is nowhere that point stands out more than in the controls. Particularly the climbing controls. Yeah, surprising, huh? You'd think a game focused around climbing would get that right. But not so much. I don't know, maybe I've just been spoiled by the innovations that have come since, and I'm sure for the time it was mighty impressive. But nowadays, every time I start to scale one of these behemoths, I just wish I could don the white hood. But to be fair, it isn't terrible either, and it's far from a deal breaker. But it was still causing me frustrations right up until the end. Probably the most infuriating time was when I was trying to climb this unruly beast. Come on, get up there. Get up there. Climb. Seriously, why is this so hard? Why is it the jump button? Now, the controls aside, if I had to raise any other concerns with the game, and I'm kind of just nitpicking here, it'd have to be the difficulty. Now, mind you, I was playing on normal, but realistically, despite their size, the Colossi aren't much of a threat. How did I survive that? I got completely bopped. It makes no sense. But that being said, it's not like I never died. My favorite boss fight, this guy, got me completely legit once. And the final boss got me a few times too, but that was kind of my own fault. I might have been trying to overcomplicate the puzzle's solution. Oops. But what I'm really trying to say is that the combat difficulty isn't really where the challenge comes in at all. It's trying to survive while figuring out how to solve the puzzle of stopping these things. Though I'd be remiss if I didn't mention another minor flaw that really shows the game's age a bit. How the Colossi react to you. Sure, they're trying to kill you and all, but it's hard to not just question why they're struggling with that so much. Like, for example, whenever you're climbing a Colossi, it tries to shake you off, naturally. And that makes sense for some of them, like the quadrupeds, or the flyers, or the sea creatures. But for the bipedal ones? Who knows, maybe I just stabbed them in the brain a few too many times. But I just couldn't help but question why the Colossi would repeat the same mistake once they actually shook me off. Seriously, this giant bird monster is on the verge of death. Fly away, not towards me. You know what? No, you actually deserve to die for this. Honestly, I think I've just been spoiled by Monster Hunter. For all of you shouting at your screens or typing away in the comments section, I'm fully aware that this is just a game mechanic limited by its time, and is really nothing more than just nitpicking. But the monsters are just done so well, that again, they feel almost alive in their world, making this AI limitation far more apparent than it would be in lesser games, which I think is a testament to just how amazing this game really feels. Because plain and simple, Shadow of the Colossus is an amazing game. It looks great, it sounds great, and most importantly, it plays great. The puzzles are challenging but fair. The action complements them in ways that few other games manage to pull off. It's a truly amazing title, even by today's standards. But, with that being said, one of the biggest questions still remain. Which game do I think is better, Ico or Shadow? Because, this is the internet, and you gotta pick sides. Those are the rules. And honestly, while I love both games, if I really had to choose, I think I'm leaning just slightly towards Ico. Hashtag Team Ico. And while I'm aware that I'm in the minority here too, after all, one of these games got a greatest hits re-release, and well, the other didn't. But unfortunately, I can't really go into detail about why I'm siding with Ico because that would spoil the endings to both games. But let's just say that Ico left me feeling much happier, while Shadow left me with a lot more questions that I really wanted answered. But I still highly recommend it. And as I mentioned in my previous review, I recommended Ico there, and in case you didn't watch it, which you should, I'm recommending it here as well. It's a beautiful action platformer that is both dark and charming. Check it out. And speaking of games by Team Ico, The Last Guardian is finally out too, after what feels like forever. I haven't played it myself yet, but come on, it's Team Ico. If you liked Shadow, I'm sure you'll like this one too. And finally, Monster Hunter 4. If you haven't gotten your fill of slaying giant monsters yet, you really need to check this one out. The way you track the beasts and the way you travel around the world captures the same level of organic flow that Colossus does, though there's definitely a greater emphasis on combat here. And that wraps up my review of the Team Ico collection. I really enjoyed finally getting to play these classics, and I hope you enjoyed it too. And who knows, if I can ever afford a PS4, maybe I'll get around to reviewing The Last Guardian. But until then, remember to like and subscribe to keep up on whatever game I choose to review next. Here's a hint though. The weather outside is frightful. And I'm just gonna stop singing right there because I don't want your ears bleeding. Until next time, guys, stay warm.